Coming up in the next 60 minutes.
Tonight, the unresolved Maize scandal.
You try that again and you'll see what is going to happen to you.
I have been directed by the president, who is disappointed, to take the necessary action. I am equally frustrated and disappointed.
Besieged Agriculture CS now blames investigating agencies for delays in concluding probe into scam.
Also tonight, the Auditor General's report exposes the ways and means used by county assembly members to steal public funds.
From the respondents?
Ahead, a day after evidence in the Kenya Power scandal case went missing, the firm's former secretary Beatrice Meso among the officials in the dock.
Plus, MPs who are arrested and arraigned over Marsabit clashes released, but court hands them conditions to work by.
NTV Tonight with Dennis Okari and Olive Burrows.
Thank you for joining us in this broadcast. Our sign language presenter tonight is David Agondoa.
There was gun drama at the Kisumu County Assembly this afternoon after a sergeant-at-arms shot at a section of MCAs who had accosted him following a disagreement.
The angry MCAs had confronted the sergeant-at-arms known as George Amayo, accusing him of intimidating them with the police. Amayo is alleged to have telephoned the police and reported that the MCAs were planning to cause chaos at the assembly after he withdrew the mace from the chambers, a move that did not go down well with the members.
The Speaker of the Assembly, Onyango Olo, had just adjourned the House moments before the fracas broke out. Police later moved in and arrested Amayo before disarming him.
The angry MCS confronted Mr. Amayo, accusing him of using the police to intimidate them. Amayo is alleged to have telephoned the police and reported that the MCS were planning to cause chaos at the assembly after he withdrew the mace from the chambers, a move that did not go down well with the members. The Speaker of the Day, Eric Agola, had just adjourned the House moments before the fracas broke out.
Yes, live bullet. Why? And you are not fighting. This is the live bullet.
Police later moved in and arrested Amayo before disarming him. Today's chaos comes barely 4 days after opposition leader Raila Odinga accused MCAs of turning county assemblies into what he termed as theatres of the absurd.
Members of the county assemblies, instead of arguing or debating, have been resorting to violence and fire.
Raila decried the caliber of the current MCAs and hinted at possible changes to the constitution, touching on governance of the county assemblies.
We are saying that we must improve the quality of those people who go to represent people in the county assembly.
Amayo and 4 MCAs who included the majority leader, majority whip, and representatives of Nyalenda B and Kondele wards recorded statements over the incident at the Kisumu Central Police Station. Uko Kusa, NTV.
Staying with MCAs, from suspect behavior by MCAs in the Kisumu County Assembly to a countrywide problem among them, it seems.
Members of County Assembly have been using committee sittings, meetings and workshops and travels to allocate themselves millions of shillings from public funds allocated to the counties.
For the 2016-2017 year under review, several county assemblies could not account for between 3 and 187 million shillings through documentation spent as allowances and other costs by members of the county assemblies.
Members of the county assemblies are supposed to oversee the county executives. However, according to a latest report by the Auditor General, MCAs have been using all means to get an extra shilling from the taxpayer for work not done.
The Auditor General report for the 2016-2017 financial year on 11 counties has revealed how members of the county assemblies have been hiding behind sitting allowances, domestic and foreign travels to fleece the taxpayer. In the Kericho County Assembly, the audit revealed that 15 committees held a total of 1,159 meetings that cost 187 million shillings in allowances. Out of those meetings, only 18 reports and 6 statements were prepared and tabled. The auditor says Kericho residents may not have received full value for such expenditure. Nyeri County Assembly spent 128 million shillings for domestic and subsistence allowances for various meetings, workshops and seminars outside the assembly. The payments, according to the audit report, have not been supported by appropriate documentation. Samburu County Assembly incurred 56.6 million shillings on domestic travel and accommodation allowances. However, the audit revealed that 10.3 million shillings used was not supported with relevant documents. Similarly, the MCAs incurred another 4 million shillings on subsistence allowances while on a foreign travel during the Women Caucus in Ethiopia. The auditor says there were no relevant documents to prove that they actually attended the meetings. Nyandarua County Assembly spent 4.9 million shillings to pay members of a committee for meetings planned to scrutinize the 2017-2018 Annual Development Plan at the Lake Naivasha Resort. However, a similar amount had been paid to members of the Trade Committee, in which the same members who were in Naivasha are members and received the money. The audit established that in Laikipia County Assembly, 3 million shillings allocated for refined fuels and lubricants for transport were reallocated and charged on domestic travel and subsistence allowances. Opposition leader Raila Odinga is among leaders who want constitutional changes that will rein in MCAs.
County assemblies are becoming theaters of the absurd. Members of the county assemblies, instead of arguing or debating, have been resorting to violence and target.
Nakuru County Assembly incurred 59.7 million shillings as sitting allowances for committee members. The Auditor General revealed some members of the committees were paid allowances despite not attending. He says in other instances, members signed in and within a few minutes signed out. Bomet County Assembly spent 90 million shillings on domestic travel, which the auditor could not confirm whether actual travel took place. Besides that, out of the 90 million shillings according to the audit, they could not produce vouchers for verification in support of 16 million shillings. Vincent Odur, NTV.
Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Mwangi Kiunjuri has now accused the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission and the Directorate of Criminal Investigations of delaying investigations into the 9.4 billion shillings maize scandal.
Kiunjuri says that while a number of farmers have received their payments, some are still waiting for the completion of investigations into the scandal. Silas Apollo reports.
Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Mwangi Kiunjuri, who has been on the receiving end from President Uhuru Kenyatta over delayed payments for farmers, today chose to set the record straight. Kiunjuri, who's been reprimanded in public twice by President Kenyatta, says most of the payments were done before he assumed office and that he only presided over the payment of about 2 billion shillings.
We have complied with this directive. As you all know, I have been directed by the President, who is disappointed, to take the necessary action. I am equally frustrated and disappointed by the manner and pace in which this matter has proceeded.
He says that despite the anger shown by the head of state, most farmers had been paid their dues and that those who received irregular payments are under investigations. He accused the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission and the Directorate of Criminal Investigations of dragging the ongoing probe into the matter.
I therefore urge, I wish I can direct them, EACC and DCIO to expedite this process in compliance with the President's directive so that the matter can be unruffled.
The CS says that some 2 farmers are currently under investigations after receiving irregular payments totaling 15 million shillings. Of the disputed payments made between February and September this year, at least 44 traders collected their verification forms but failed to return them. They claimed they were owed 217 million shillings. Another 74 traders had delivery forms that did not match the quantity of maize that they delivered. They claim they were owed 429 million shillings. The ministry has also identified some 152 traders who delivered 40% of maize that was delivered and were paid 63% of the 2 billion shillings, which is under investigations.
Kiunjuri, who appears to have absolved himself from blame, now says the matter is with the investigating agencies, the EACC and the DCI, and has promised answers in the coming weeks. Silas Apollo, NTV.
Two-time Cabinet Secretary Mwangi Kiunjuri is facing the biggest challenge of his career so far as a Cabinet Secretary.
The scandals in the maize and sugar sectors have put him directly in the president's line of fire as he seeks to ensure that graft in the ministry is nipped in the bud.
NTV's Brenda Wanga reports on the developments that have put the CS's job on the line.
It's been hardly a year since Cabinet Secretary Mwangi Kiunjuri took over the reins of the Agriculture Ministry in President Uhuru's second-term cabinet. The sailing, however, for the Cabinet Secretary has been anything but smooth, and now the turbulence is coming in from the very highest office in the land, the appointing authority.
Hatuwezi kuwa kila saa pesa inatolewa na inakulwa na wachache.
Twice in 1 month, the president has fired off a salvo of heavy warnings to his agriculture CS, Mwangi Kiunjuri, over the woes bedeviling the maize and sugar farmers in the country. The latest warning coming as the country celebrated this year's Mashujaa Day.
Na ndipo nilisema waziri wa kilimo Bwana Kiunjuri, tujue ya kwamba sasa mchezo umeisha. Tafuta hawa watu ambao wanakula mali ya wengine, utuletee tufunge, ama wewe mwenyewe utakuwa na shida katika hiyo shida mambo.
The president strongly worded caution a follow-up to similar sentiments he echoed on the 4th of October. Even then, his anger towards the CS's inaction palpable.
I promise you and I swear before God, you try that again and you'll see what is going to happen to you. Sisi hatutaki mchezo tena, kwa sababu tumeona yale ambayo mmefanya na wale ambao walifanya tutawafuata.
The president's ire triggered by the cries of farmers, especially maize farmers, who have been cheated out of their hard-earned money by cartels and NCPB officers. The government has released billions of shillings to be paid to the farmers, but the money has ended up in the pockets of a few individuals with questionable farming credentials.
Lakini unasikia kuna mkulima ati amedeliver kwa NCPB mahindi ya shilingi milioni 200. Jameni, niambieni ni nani? Mimi niko na shamba na sio ndogo. Niambie ni nani mkulima ambaye anakuza Kenya hii mahindi ya shilingi milioni 200?
While the maize payment scandal is currently on top of the list of troubles facing the ministry and its chief accounting officer, the CS has also had to answer to the ministry's handling of the sugar industry. This year alone, his ministry has had to fend off accusations of letting the sugar industry collapse on his watch. The importation of huge amounts of cheap sugar into the country has left farmers of the commodity with no market for their goods, bringing sugar companies to their deathbeds. The CS has in the past denied culpability.
I've done my part and I will not be intimidated. And I want to set this clear signal. This information should reach those leaders who always think they can intimidate ministers.
And today, he stuck to his guns, blaming the media for his troubles.
To my haters, I have listened to you carefully through the social media, media houses, and I choose not to respond to you because some of you are politically frustrated.
That may be so, but Kiunjuri's pressure is now coming from far higher up, from the man who convinced the CS to shelve his gubernatorial ambitions for a seat at the cabinet table. That confidence, the president's head now shaken, leaving the future of the CS hinged on the delivery of the president's directive, keeping farmers happy. the very farmers on whom the president's food security bit of the Big Four agenda lies. Brenda Wanga, NTV.
Which haters do you think he's referring to?
The media.
Okay.
You and the rest of
the media. What makes you think that? I don't think so.
But yeah, I
hope he's speaking to the cartels.
Maybe.
Okay. Former KPLC Secretary Beatrice Meso and 2 others were today presented in court over the loss of crucial documents in the faulty transformers case, which is about the loss of 408 million shillings.
The disappearance of the documents, which are said to have been in Kenya Power's custody, caused the case to stall. NTV's Nuru Abdulaziz reports.
On Monday, the court allowed the case against former Kenya Power officials, among them former managing directors Ben Chumo and his successor Counter-terrorism, to be adjourned to give the prosecutor time to probe and find the missing documents. The court was told that an original document with details of procurement of faulty transformers was missing and only photocopies were available. State Counsel Alexander Muteti told the court his case against the officials could not go on since he planned to rely on the original Energy Regulatory Commission report on faulty transformers, which is the missing document. It is said to contain details linking the accused to the case. Today, the prosecution requested the accused to be put in police custody until investigations are complete, while the respondent's lawyer argued that they need to be given bail.
We are therefore requesting that the respondents be in police custody until these investigations are complete. It's for that reason we are requesting that the plea be deferred until after 7 days.
Corruption case number 26 of 2018. In that case, the accused persons are out on bond, a personal bond of 3 million and cash bail of 1 million.
Charges leveled against Tarus, Chumo and their co-accused include abuse of office, willful failure to comply with procurement laws, conspiracy to commit economic crimes, procurement and supply of faulty transformers worth millions of shillings. Earlier, Chumo had distanced himself from the claims leveled against him, stating the ills happened long after he stopped being an employee of the power distributor. Nur Abdulaziz, NTV.
Members of Parliament Chachu Ganye from North Hor and Ali Raso from Saku got a reprieve after the court declined a DCI application to detain them for 21 days.
The 2 MPs were arrested over the Burana and Gabra interclan clashes, which left 14 dead and dozens displaced from their homes in Marsabit County. The legislators were accused of incitement to violence and funding the raids.
North Hor MP Chachu Ganya and his Saku counterpart Dido Ali Raso today appeared before Nairobi Senior Principal Magistrate Kennedy Cheriot after spending the night at Kileleshwa Police Station following the arrest on Monday. The 2 MPs were charged with inciting violence in Marsabit County that led to deaths of 14 people. Chachu and Raso denied the charges and were released on a cash bail of 250,000 shillings or 1 million shillings bond. The court also declined the prosecution's request to detain them for 21 days for police to complete investigations on Marsabit clashes. Magistrate Kennedy Cheriot says he freed the 2 for the sake of reconciliation efforts among the warring communities in Marsabit. The court further agreed with the defense team's position that Chachu and Raso had already begun reconciliation plans to end the violence in Marsabit. The MPs were directed to make themselves available to the investigating officers at DCI headquarters as and when required. Meanwhile, Wiper Democratic Movement leader Kalonzo Musyoka said the clashes in Marsabit County present a very risky atmosphere for KCSE and KCP candidates who intend to sit for the exams. He was speaking at Daima Primary School in Huruma, Mathare constituency, where he presented 8 primary schools with success cards.
As our children sit for their national examinations, it is important that the whole country be at peace with itself.
According to the Kenya Red Cross Society, more than 665 households have been displaced following the conflict. Hundreds of people have also fled their homes in the affected areas, with 16 schools in villages such as Shur, Orenderi, Kubigalo and Jaldesa being closed. Rozongwei, NTV.
Baringo County Governor Stanley Kiptis has condemned the murder of 4 people on Sunday in a bandit attack in Ameyan in Kapedo.
Kiptis says he is ready to work with leaders from neighboring counties to ensure security is enhanced in the area.
2 people were taken to Baringo Referral Hospital following the ambush. The attack paralyzed transport on the Chemolingot Road. There have been perennial fights in Ameyan, which is at the border of Turkana and Baringo counties.
We also wish to call upon the chiefs, the assistant chiefs, and all the security personnel to ensure that they actually upscale the surveillance. Surveillance is necessary so as actually to prevent such kinds of heinous acts from people who are only out to cause mayhem.
NTV Tonight takes a short break. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Bomet Governor Joyce Laboso has distanced herself from claims that she denied the county's elected leaders a chance to speak before President Uhuru Kenyatta on Monday, arguing that the program was being controlled by the president's men.
But even as she defends her move, the leaders argue their decision to leave was informed by the fact that it was not the first time it happened. NTV's political reporter Kennedy Mureithi reports on this unfolding.
Monday's walkout by Bomet's elected leaders from a presidential function in their county continues to be the talk in political corridors. The county's governor, Joyce Laboso, does not understand why the matter is still on people's tongues and why she is being blamed for what happened.
The real reason why this hitch happened yesterday was because of the time constraints, one, and secondly, that we don't control the president's program.
But the legislators who walked out on the president are not buying that line, saying that they have had it before. In fact, they say it is not the first time it has happened and they cannot take it anymore.
Hii sio mara ya kwanza. President alikuja kufungua Tenwek eye clinic. Akatuambia he was in a hurry. And you know we love our president and our deputy. Aliposema hako na haraka tukampaswet, wananchi wanakuongoja hapo kwa high school. President akakubali, tukaenda tukazimama. Imagine kuzimama viongozi. Sisi wote tulizimama, hakuna kuketi. Sisi tukaambiwa salamia watu, tukasalamia watu, ngawaje ukiwa unasalamia unatoa neno kidogo. So what happened? Tulipoona the same thing inarudi jana, unajua people became suspicious. Wananchi hata walikuwa wanatuambia amupewi nafasi.
Sources tell NTV one of the reasons they were not given an opportunity to speak is to avoid a scenario such as the one witnessed in Nandi County, where the region's leadership tried to force an endorsement of Deputy President William Ruto by his boss President Kenyatta ahead of the 2022 race. However, the leaders insist it was about their local issues, top on the agenda the Mau Forest equation.
Tungemwambia rais, hakikishia watu wako ya kwamba ile cutline ulisema iheshimiwe vile raia wameheshimu. Hiyo tu.
The Mau issue is a very thorny one, and even we had, myself and even the governor of Kericho had written to the president. We've had occasions even to discuss with him. And what has really come out, is that what would be the best thing is if the leadership of both the Kipsigis and or at least the Kalenjins and the Maasais, if we could have a situation where this leadership can meet together, that is the only time we can be able to really get a lasting solution.
Governor Laboso argues all is not lost as a structured meeting is in the offing with regards to the issues raised, bringing together leaders from the Rift Valley region, including MCAs.
With 72,000 liters of milk.
Kennedy Muredhi, NTV.
As Kenya prepares to launch direct flights to the U.S. on Sunday, I sat down with Foreign Affairs and International Trade Cabinet Secretary Monica Juma to discuss its significance. We also discussed the concerns over what some view as a treacherous indebtedness to China and the reasons behind Raila Odinga's recent appointment as High Representative for Infrastructure Development for the African Union. I was asking you a bit earlier, are you excited about taking the trip?
Yes, I think many people are excited. It has given us an opportunity to upgrade our status in the aviation industry. But we are also pleased because this is an opportunity really to link the West Indian coast to the Western Hemisphere. So we are excited as
You're excited about it. You say this is the culmination of 6 years of hard work. Why was it so important?
It is important because JKIA is a hub. It is connecting us to some of the most important strategic partners we have. The US, which has been a traditional friend of Kenya since before independence, but also the Latin American countries and the American South. So New York, a direct flight to New York increases the efficiency of movement from the Western Hemisphere into Nairobi, into the rest of the continent.
Okay. Have you crunched any numbers? Do you have any specifics in terms of how much we intend, for example, our trade with the US to grow by as a result of the direct flight?
Well, we don't have the numbers yet, but there is an indication. Right now, the flight is full for days on end. But we are confident that we are going to see a huge surge in volumes on trade, in movement of businesses, business people and corporations, because it always makes a difference when you have to make a decision about a one-stop flight. You know, it is much easier than if you are doing 2-3 connections on one journey.
Okay. How sustainable, though, is it? KQ hasn't been in the strongest financial position in the past few years. Have there been interventions that have been made to ensure that this direct flights to the US are sustainable?
We are confident, and as I have told you, this has taken us 6 years to get here. So there's been a lot of work, a lot of assessment, a lot of input, a lot of training, a lot of infrastructural development and renewal. So we are confident, and that is why we are not just beginning with a few flights. We are actually going full blast. Starting on 28th, we'll be across the Atlantic every day of the week.
Okay. What have been the cost implications? In terms of, definitely we've had to upgrade, for example, our security procedures at the airport. Do you have like an estimate of what those cost implications
No, because
have been?
that has been part of growing the aviation industry. You know, we've not been upgrading just for KQ. We've been upgrading for everybody that is coming in and leaving out of here. So, and it has been part of the larger effort to improve the entire security of this country. So it has just not been the airports. It has been the airports, it has been the ports, it has been strategic installations, it has been our roads, you know. So and it's a whole set of a systemic renewal, you know, if you look at our security apparatus.
You mentioned, for example, the DG UNON will be on the flight. Any other notables we should look forward to seeing on the flight?
Well, they will be there. I will not give you titles of people here, just to tell you that they'll be there, including Richard Quest, of course, who everybody knows he will be there. So it will be a good fete, and it's because we represent more than ourselves. Because of our regional integration agenda that has been driven by President Kenyatta, and we are very proud of what this surface as part of the African integration agenda.
As we seek to grow our trade and our relations with the Americas, China is also a very big market for us. We are seeking to grow in terms of getting more tourists and also strengthening our business ties. But there seems to be this public sentiment that the relationship is not balanced.
It is true that there is an imbalance of trade, but it is also true that we are working to correct that imbalance of trade. And this is why, again, we are going to have a sizable delegation into the Chinese import exhibition that is going to be in Shanghai in November. Now, in fact, standing this import exhibition is a signal that the Chinese realize they need to review the balance of trade. It's not just the Chinese, by the way. We are working on a number of markets because we realize that we need to move our goods. Even as we attract investment, it is also important that we add value to our goods here and that we push those goods to other new markets. And China is one of those.
Of course, I'm sure you've heard of the MPs who've come out and said, and also traders, that we have had this influx of Chinese goods into the market and they're killing off local trade. Have you looked into those concerns?
These issues around trade and around the types of goods coming in and out is a matter that is always has to be monitored throughout. And we are having a number of institutions that are looking to this, including the Bureau of Standards. The Ministry of Trade has several directorates that look to this. And I think it is something that the government has its eyes on.
Kenya has made a lot of accommodation as far as its neighbors is concerned in the wider continent in terms of visas and opening up Kenya to business. But there's this feeling that it's not reciprocated, that so these are one-sided gestures. Is that how you feel, or is your position different?
It is not true, factually, that providing access to African brothers and sisters has led to an influx. That is not true. It is also not true that Kenyans are not going out. That is not true. Actually, if you went to any African country, in any sector, you'll probably find some Kenyans, you know, and working and accessing goods and services in those countries and probably living in those countries.
Right Honorable Raila Odinga was recently appointed the High Representative for Infrastructure and Development in Africa. Was that a position that was lobbied for by your office, or was that, strictly speaking, an offer, or rather an appointment extended by the AU?
The idea is that with using the good offices of the chairperson of the African Union, he has the ability to appoint persons that he thinks would be useful to him in terms of helping to drive this agenda. You know, and it is in this context that the former Prime Minister has been appointed. It really reaffirms President Uhuru's leadership, not just thought leadership, but demonstrative leadership. But you will also agree with me that the former Prime Minister brings credentials that are aligned and relevant to this position. So we are very pleased at this appointment.
Thank you very much for your time.
Olive there and CS Monica Juma discussing matters of the U.S. And speaking of the U.S., is social media taking the place of traditional or mainstream media? Mark Masai had a chat with CNN journalist Richard Quest on this and a raft of other issues facing the media. Here's a preview of that chat.
What I'm saying is the challenge for the reputable media is to make themselves relevant and dominant on social media so that, yes, people don't sit down and switch on the 9 o'clock news and wait for tablets of stone to be handed down from some newsreader who should have been retired years ago. No, they are getting their news from 1,000,001 different ways. And what we need to educate people is that I don't care who you go to. If you like the BBC, go there. If you want Daily Nation, go there. But please go to somewhere that you're... Fox News is a good example. Yes. Fox News, go there. Fox News will tell you by and large what's happening on an average day in an honest and truthful way.
Well, get to hear what the Quest Means Business host thinks of the fake news tag and U.S. President Donald Trump and much more in the full interview, which will air next Monday. That is the 29th of October.
Well, looking forward to that. And on that note, we are taking another short break. Olive will be back here with business. Let's find out if we had a profitable day.
Well, it's certainly been a profitable day for the Kenyan government, which has been awarded about 360 billion shillings as compensation after a case filed against it by Kotek Mining and other foreign firms over a mining dispute was dismissed by the International Center for Settlement of Investment Disputes. Here's Victor Kiprop with more details on the ruling.
In its ruling delivered on Tuesday, the World Bank Tribunal declined a claim for compensation by Kotek Mining Kenya Limited, Kotek Property Limited and Sterling Capital Limited over the cancellation of its mining license in Mrima Hills, Kwale County, arguing that the license was not a protected investment.
They had been given an exploration license, which means basically to just go and check and see what minerals are in place and so on. And they were also told that they could only do it in existing mines, so they're not supposed to cut new mines because of the nature of the area. And where the license that they say they were given to allow them to mine was given on 7th of March 2013. It was revoked or cancelled or stopped in 5th of August 2013.
In 2013, Kenya's then mining minister Najib Balala revoked the licenses on grounds that they were irregularly issued. Having already lost the case at both the High Court and the Court of Appeal, the companies escalated the matter to the International Center for Settlement of Investment Disputes in 2015. They were seeking about 200 billion shillings in compensation for the cancellation, claiming a breach of the UK-Kenya bilateral investment treaty's obligation to treat them fairly and equitably.
In the international arena, there has come up what is referred to as rogue investors, people who come in, they purport to have acquired an investment. When those investments are rejected because of flouting laws, they then file claims at the international tribunals in the expectation of making money.
In 2015, Kotek Mining had announced that it had discovered one of the world's largest undeveloped niobium and rare earth deposits worth 10 trillion shillings at Mrima Hills, Harrier. The government, however, insists that the mining operations cannot be undertaken in the area as it is protected both as a forest and as a nature reserve. Victor Kiprop, NTV Business.
Transport CS James Macharia says the looming workers' strike at Kenya Airways will not affect the inaugural flight to New York scheduled for next week Wednesday. KQ staff today issued a strike notice threatening to down their tools if the crew set to man the 15-hour flight do not receive better pay. Macharia's comments come after Kenya Airways CEO Sebastian Mikosh had called on the workers' union to postpone negotiations until after the launch of the direct flight.
On Monday, the court allowed the case against former Kenya Power officials, among them former managing directors Ben Chumo and his successor Counter-terrorism, to be adjourned to give the prosecutor time to probe and find the missing documents. The court was told that an original document with details of procurement of faulty transformers was missing and only photocopies were available. State Counsel Alexander Muteti told the court his case against the officials could not go on since he planned to rely on the original Energy Regulatory Commission report on faulty transformers, which is the missing document. It is said to contain details linking the accused to the case. Today, the prosecution requested the accused to be put in police custody until investigations are complete, while the respondent's lawyer argued that they need to be given bail.
We are therefore requesting that the respondents be in police custody until these investigations are complete. It's for that reason we are requesting that the plea be deferred until after 7 days.
Corruption case number 26 of 2018. In that case, the accused persons are out on bond.
The Energy Regulatory Commission says it is in the final stages of a tariff revision that will see small businesses pay a little less for their electricity. This is after President Uhuru Kenyatta ordered the Ministry of Energy to lower the cost of power for SMEs. Once the revision is complete, the SMEs will be moved from their current domestic ordinary consumers category to the small commercial category. In this new category, the SMEs will pay 21 shillings and 95 cents per unit, which is 12.4% less than the cost they have been paying since the August power tariff review. Last week, SMEs complained to President Kenyatta that the high cost of power was pushing up the cost of doing business. We apologize for that earlier mix-up. Well, Transport CS James Macharia says the looming workers' strike at Kenya Airways will not affect the inaugural flight to New York scheduled for next week Wednesday. KQ staff today issued a strike notice threatening to down their tools if the crew set to man the 15-hour flight do not receive better pay. Macharia's comments come after Kenya Airways CEO Sebastian Mikosh had called on the workers' union to postpone negotiations until after the launch of the flight. President Uhuru Kenyatta today signed into law the Supplementary Appropriation Bill number 2 of 2018, authorizing Treasury to release 21 billion shillings from the Consolidated Fund to the Housing Department. The department will then be expected to kickstart the affordable housing project under the Big Four agenda. This comes just days after the Cabinet passed the Affordable Homes Guidelines last week. The bill was signed after Treasury reorganized its spending plan in line with the government's austerity measures. The Cabinet last week approved the rules to guide participation of investors, contributors and beneficiaries of about 1 million low-cost homes. That marks the end of our business news.
Junior, fashion.
Welcome back. Women in Mandera County are pleading for more inclusion and representations in the fight against violent extremism in the region. They say that cultural and religious misconceptions have sidelined them from playing an active role against militant groups such as the Al-Shabaab that have claimed dozens of innocent civilians.
NTV's Seth Olale with the details on the conclusion of the Mandera Counter-terrorism and de-radicalization conference.
The highlight of the two-day stakeholders meeting here in Mandera town was a declaration of a 7-point resolution read by the Mandera County Governor Ali Roba, which aims at preventing or rather curbing violent extremism.
We resolve to adopt an inclusive approach that brings on board multi-agencies and non-state actors in preventing and addressing violent extremism. We resolve to aggressively sensitize the public on the effects of violent extremism and radicalization on our societies.
Tuko na action plan ya kupambana na itikadi potofu na pia tuko na County Integrated Development Plan. Hizi plan zote mbili zitatumika ili kuimarisha hali ya ajira ya vijana na kuwezesha vijana wapate riziki ya kila siku.
Women and youth in this particular county are calling for more representation and inclusion in order to be part of the initiative.
The pain of a mother losing her son through an attack or losing her son through radicalization, it's really tough. So if a mother talks emotionally to her son, so big percentage she might change his narrative.
Mothers, we are majorly affected because it is our daughters and our sons who are involved in these issues, because terrorists, they normally target women and youths. And if a child goes to Somalia or wherever they normally go and involves himself in these issues, it is the mother who's normally affected emotionally, psychologically, and mothers go through a lot of things. It's only that we don't go there and listen to their stories. I think they will have a big stories than even these men who have been talking here.
The residents hope that what was discussed and contributed upon during the 2-day stakeholders meeting will go a long way towards achieving long-lasting peace in this particular region. Seth Olale, NTV, Mandera County.
We take a break as Dennis Okari celebrates LeBron's third loss with his new team. But when we come back, Warother will be here with the sports news.
turning to despair. That is the story of the Harambee Starlets' journey to the Women's Cup of Nations, which seems to have hit a bump due to scarcity of funds. Football Kenya Federation is now urging the government to operationalize the sports fund, which is reported to have 10 billion shillings lying idle. Harambee Starlets' dance at the Africa Women's Cup of Nations is in danger of ending even before it starts due to lack of funds needed by Football Kenya Federation.
If the sports fund is not operational by next week, we might not be able to fund this team 2 weeks later for the Cup of Nations.
For the Starlets Cup of Nations outing, FKF has presented a budget of 43 million shillings to the Sports Ministry. The plan is to have the team start residential training on 29th of November, play 2 international friendlies and depart for Ghana on 14th of November. This plan is, however, solely dependent on the funding.
But the ministry does not have the money. But I want to tell you the good news. Our understanding is that our sports fund, the noble idea that was created, has got more than 10 billion shillings as we speak today. 35% of which, by law, would come to sports.
Kenya, which has set itself a target of getting out of the group stage, will be relying on Starlets veterans like AC Akida and Corazon Aquino, who now play professional football abroad.
We're in the same group with Nigeria, South Africa, and Zambia. I know many Kenyans are writing us off. But I want to say that we have seen the impossible becoming possible with Kenya beating Ghana.
But even as FKF eyes the sports fund, it may be too late to the party. There is an amendment to the Sports Act that has gone through the first reading in Parliament, which seeks to have the fund become the property of the starved for cash national government.
A bill for an act of Parliament to amend the Sports Act.
According to Football Kenya Federation, if the government does not come through with the funds required by the Harambee Starlets to play at the Cup of Nations next month in Ghana, then it will be forced to ask you, the Kenyan, to help with funding the team's trip. Warote Kiru, NTV, Nairobi County. And 3 Kenyans are in the list of 10 nominees for IAAF Male World Athlete of the Year, who were selected by an international panel of athletics experts. Headlining the list is Olympic champion Eliud Kipchoge, who won the Berlin Marathon whilst making the biggest improvement on a men's marathon world record since 1967. Also in the list is Timothy Cheruiyot, who set world leads at both 1500 meters and 1 mile with 9 out of 11 wins across those distances. He also is the Diamond League champion. Surprise inclusion is Emmanuel Korir, who set the world lead at the world's fastest at the 800 meters since 2012. He also is a Diamond League champion and Continental Cup winner and African Championship silver medalist. Fans can vote online via the IAAF social media platforms, with their votes comprising 25% of the final vote. The newly crowned Amsterdam Marathon champion Lawrence Cherono jetted back home today to a heroic welcome. Cherono was received by his family, friends and training mates at the Eldoret International Airport, who broke into song and dance before giving him a sip of the Kalenjin traditional milk, commonly known as Mursik. The 33-year-old from Barweswak ward in Baringo County broke his own course record by more than a minute when he clocked 2 hours, 4 minutes, 0.06 seconds, and Cherono attributed his win to intense training due to the presence of marathon great Kiranesa Bekele.
Kuvunja rekodi ya kwanza ilikuwa yangu. Hii bia nimeenda nikavunja rekodi bia. Ni ashiria kwamba bidii yenye nimeweka kwa mazoezi. Nilijitahidi mzuri, nikajipanga mzuri, kisha nikaenda kushiriki hiyo mashindano nikiwa kama niko well fit.
Allow me also to take this opportunity to congratulate Cherono, the son of Baringo County.
The national 15s rugby team coach Ian Snook has included 4 Kenya Sevens regulars in his squad of 30 for the Global Rapid Charge to be held in France in November. These are Collins Injera, Nelson Oyo, Samuel Yates and former Kenya Sevens captain Andrew Amonde. The team will leave the country on Tuesday next week to Romania, where they will play the hosts on November 3rd in an international friendly. The Simbas will then launch their quest for Rugby World Cup ticket against Canada on November 11th. Arsenal substitute Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang scored twice in 3 minutes, and captain Mesut Ozil played a starring role as they extended their winning run with a 3-1 victory over Leicester City in the English Premier League on Monday night. Arsenal stretched their winning streak in all competitions to 10 games and rose to 4th with 21 points from 9 games, 2 points behind leaders Manchester City and Liverpool, and level with third place Chelsea and Tottenham Hotspur in 5th. Arsenal's next EPL game is at Crystal Palace on Sunday.
Tapped in his first of the night.
Patty Mills drilled a jumper with 7 seconds remaining in overtime to cap a 7-0 run in the final 55 seconds and lift the San Antonio Spurs to a wild 143-142 win over the host Los Angeles Lakers. The result kept LeBron James winless over his first 3 games with his new team, even though he produced 32 points, 14 assists and 8 rebounds. Meanwhile, Stephen Curry scored 29 points in 29 minutes before sitting out the 4th quarter.
On the other end, inbound.
Well, that marks the end of NTV Tonight, but you definitely do not want to turn the dial, as Ken Mijungu is coming up with Sidebar, and his 3 guests tonight are none other than Martha Karua, Joe Nyaga and Millie Mabona.
There's so much to cover, and you don't definitely want to miss that, and it's coming right after this, so you better just stay tuned.